Theresa May calls for a snap UK general election to get the Brexit support as stocks plunge upon the news. The coming French Revolution, the election that could steer the future of Europe. And now we see a hard left candidate emerging as a serious contender. Lots of things shaking up worldwide.
True.
We had Brexit, which led to Trump. I'm not sure that they necessarily coincided with each other, but
They didn't.
they were both unsuspected and
Yes.
and kind of surprising.
Yes.
Now Theresa May is a little bit of a surprise, and she's calling for a snap election. Why?
Well, she's calling for a snap election is where you don't spend 3 months going back and forth campaigning, spending a lot of money to get elected, debates and whatever. Snap election means we're going to set the date of June the 6th, and in that day we're going to have a vote, and whatever the vote comes out, that shall be. So she's asking now for a snap election, meaning without a lot of
Fanfare and hoopla.
And
So is that in her best interest? It must be, or she wouldn't have asked for it.
well, I think she pretty much gotten off to a very good start. She seems to have engendered respect. She seems to be a throwback to what was her name?
Thatcher?
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because my thought process, as you said that, was, are we seeing another coalescence of Reagan, Thatcher, Trump,
Yes.
May?
Oh, yeah. There's no question about it. That's exactly what you're seeing. You're seeing.
Now we just have to get a different pope in there.
Well, I don't think that means one thing or another. But the point is, you're absolutely right. There's so many similarities between the 1980s and what's happening now that it's really amazing when you think about it. Yes, I think that ray of sunshine that existed between 1981 and 89 is something that we should certainly hope for, and it's got a good chance of coming back. And to have a strong leader in England or the United Kingdom and the United States will mean a lot. As a matter of fact, I think Brexit is going to turn out to be a great thing for the United Kingdom as well as for the United States, because there'll be a lot more business generating between the United States and United Kingdom than there had been between the United States and the Eurocom. And one of the reasons is the United Kingdom has tremendous power in the Middle East with all the money there. They know how to handle these guys there. They put them in business to begin with. And obviously, they're our country cousins. They speak our language. They're right next door, the other side of the language. Everything about Brexit will be good for the United States as well as for England. I think there'll be another $50 to $100 billion generated.
So why did stocks plunge upon the news that they were going to have a snap election?
Well, I think the stocks have a way of interpreting things based on how they look at it. They think a snap election is somewhat dictatorial, and it's not going to give the English people a chance to really think about what they're going to do. I think anything to do right now with Brexit, which means the exit from the European community, and they're putting that also into the context of what's going to happen in France, what's going to happen in Germany, I think what's going to happen is a dissolution of the European community within 5 years.
Which was probably a pretty ridiculous, false notion to begin with, don't you think?
Well,
they tried to base it on the model of the United States, but you're not dealing with Indiana and Illinois.
Well,
you're dealing with completely different cultures.
They were selling it to the United States of Europe.
Right. But it's a completely different language, culture, currency. Everything about it is different.
Well, also the German chancellor, who was in charge at that time, thought this would cast a very good light on Germany by taking the mark, which was the third most powerful currency in the world at that time after the pound and the dollar, and by sacrificing the mark and giving it to the euro. The euro is actually the successor to the mark, showing how Germany now has changed. They're not out there killing everybody. They're now being nice guys, and they're trying to be helpful.
So all they've really done is just taken the burden of all the other European Union countries and put it on their back. That's basically what they've done.
That's basically what they did, yeah. I think, it's interesting, being of German background myself. You go back to June 28th, 1914, when the Archduke Francis Ferdinand and his wife were murdered by Serbs. And on that day, that was the day it started all the events that came afterwards. I don't have time to go into all the events, but it was a trigger that got all the empires fighting each other who had
World War One.
World War One, World War Two, everything like that happened. But the point being, Germany, if you look at a map of Germany on June 28th of 1914, they always, in the Deutschland über alles, which is a big German national anthem, says from the Tsar to the Memel, which the Tsar was at the extreme west of Germany, right part of France. They owned Alsace-Lorraine, and Memel was a river in Lithuania, so they owned everything from parts of France all the way to northeastern Europe. Well, now the size of Germany is less than 1/3 of what it was then.
Speaking of France, French elections coming up, and we've got I call it a French Revolution of sorts, because you usually have the right and the left going against each other. This year, you can throw all that out the window. You've got all kinds of factions fighting in France.
It would be a two-step situation. They'll have one will bring it down to the two contenders. That's coming up very quickly.
And so the two contenders could end up not being the norm as it usually is in France. And you've got a hard left radical making some serious contention.
Is there such a thing as a norm in France? I never heard of it before.
Interesting. So break down the French election for those folks that are watching at home.
Well, the French election right now, France is going through a basic reevaluation of who they are. I don't know if they know that themselves. You've got Le Pen, the Marine Le Pen, who is a candidate, a woman, her nowhere near like her father. Her father laughed at the Holocaust. He said it was just a minor detail of the Second War, which didn't make him a very, shall we say, compatible individual regarding what the horrors that happened during that period of time. And so consequently, you've got Le Pen representing the rightist elements.
The nationalist.
Well, she's probably as close
to Trump
as anybody in this
in France.
Yes, she has the same idea. She wants to have borders,
language,
French
culture.
Border. Yeah, she wants
no more migration.
She wants to get rid of a lot of these people that came in from Algeria. You know, Algeria used to be a department of France until 1958, and then de Gaulle is the guy that said, no, that these are French people, they can all come to France. So hundreds of thousands, no, millions of Algerians came to France not as refugees, but as Frenchmen who could now take over in France. So a lot of the Muslims that are part of France today were the Algerians. You know, anybody who was following things like I was in those days in the late 50s and early 60s, there were some horrible fights between the French gendarmerie and also the Algerians. They had the city of Algiers was practically destroyed in an attempt by the French to break down the Algerian uprising.
What do you think the chances are that Le Pen wins? Less than 50%?
I'd say less than 50%. I think right now she gets about 22, 25%.
But then you still have to form a coalition government beyond that once you win.
In France, I don't think you can win without a coalition government. I think that they've always been so much at each other's throats. I think France has not ever been unified. I think they went from Louis XIV to Napoleon. I think under France reached the height of their power and their unity under Napoleon.
Turkey, very, very influential change, sweeping powers given to Erdogan, however you want to say it, giving him almost complete control, a dictatorship over that country. 100 some odd years after his family formed a secular government in Turkey. So now it's gone to an Islamist dictatorship almost.
It's gone. You're absolutely right. It was
And the people voted for this.
well, it was half and half. It was like 51 to 49 or something like that. It was, who knows, but it happened, okay? The point is, ironically, there was, after they had gone to a secular government after in 1912, they had the Young Turks took over and started the secular movement, and consequently what happened subsequently was the war. They murdered the Armenians. I don't care what anybody says, was a Holocaust of the Armenian Christians. So that's still, nobody's talking about it because they don't want to offend Turkey. But the point was that in 1980, the military had a successful military uprising, and the Erdogan was put in jail at that particular time, and there was a military dictatorship. But then the military fought within itself, and slowly but surely Erdogan started finding his way back.
And now Erdogan wants to be a part of the European Union at a time when the European Union is basically splintering and falling apart. He has no chance of getting in there now, does he?
Zero chance, no, none whatsoever. I think he brought it that because part of the end of the Second War, the Ottoman Empire, which became Turkey, sided with the axis of Germany and Austria-Hungary. So actually, what a lot of people don't know, in the 1920s, Greece was given Thrace, which was the European part of Turkey, and also a piece of Anatolia, which is the mainland of Turkey. And the Turks were under the command of a very famous general who then beat the Greeks and it took back. But it looked like things were getting better until this Erdogan situation came along.